Hello everybody, this is Pastor Green. We're doing another Bible study, Acts chapter 12. If you'd like me to come speak at your church, or if you have any questions, you can email me at godsohman@gmail.com. Acts 12, starting with verse 1. Now about that time, Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church, and he killed James, the brother of John, with a sword. And because the Saul pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread. And when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison, and delivered him to 4 quadrillion of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Now, a lot of people have asked me, isn't Easter an error in Acts 12:4? Shouldn't it be Pascha or Passover, like all the other versions have? And I've actually done a video on the Easter, basically, and I'll link that on here somewhere. So you have to actually look at what it says. So it says, now by that time Herod the king stretched forth his hand to vex certain of the church, and he killed James, the brother of John, with a sword. And because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. And then it says, and then were the days of unleavened bread. And when he apprehended him, he put him in prison, and delivered him 4 quadrillions of soldiers to keep him intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. The English Standard Version and the New International Version both say Passover. After the Passover, after the Passover. So why do these say after the Passover, and the King James says after Easter? The American Standard Version and the Good News Translation, after the Passover. After the Passover. Even the Living Bible, after the Passover. The question I was checking out is, what is the best-selling version of the Bible? This is the New Revised Standard Version. It's the version most commonly preferred by biblical scholars. Not me, I'm a King James guy. And then this is in the United States, 55% surveyed respondents who read the Bible used the King James Version in 2014, followed by 19% for the New International Version. And other versions were used by fewer than 10%. So in 2014, 55% of the people read the King James Version. So why the change? Well, let's look at the New Revised Standard Version. It even says after the Passover. It's really interesting that all these verses say after the Passover, not after Easter. So I'm going to explain what exactly the Passover is so you can see what I'm talking about. So in Exodus 12:1-3, it says, and the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron the law of Egypt, saying, in this month, which was April, shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So April to the Jews is the first month. Speak ye to all the congregation of Israel, saying, the 10th day of this month they shall take them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. So April 10th, you get a lamb. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of their souls. Every man according to the eating shall make your count of the lamb. If your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year, you shall take it from the goats or from the sheep. And you shall keep it to the 14th day of the same month. So you get it on the 10th, you keep it to the 14th. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. They shall take the blood and strike it on the 2 sides of the post of the upper doorpost of the house, wherefore they should eat it. And they shall eat the flesh at night, roasted with fire, unleavened bread, with bitter herbs, and you shall eat it, not all of it raw, nor sodden with water, but roasted with fire, his head with his legs, and the pertinence thereof, which is basically the organs. And you shall let none of it remain until the morning, and that the remaineth until morning shall be burnt with fire. And then you shall eat it with your loins girded, and your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It's the Lord's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt at night, and I will smite all the firstborn of the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment, for I am the Lord. So you get a lamb on the 10th. You sacrifice it on the 14th. You eat it all that night. That's the Passover. Then it says, the blood shall be for you a token upon the houses where you are. When I see the blood, I'll pass over you, and the plague should not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. So the angel's going to pass over that house, and that's why it's called the Passover. And in this day shall be a memorial. You shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by the ordinance forever. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven of your house. And whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day to the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. So you got the Passover, then you got 7 days of unleavened bread. And in the first day thou shalt be called a holy convocation, and the 7th day thou shalt be a holy convocation unto you. No matter of work shall be done on them, save which every man must eat, that you may be done to you. You should observe the feast of unleavened bread, for this is the same day that I brought you armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day in your generation by the ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, you shall eat unleavened bread, until the 20th day of the month at even. So the way it basically works is, April the 10th you find yourself a lamb, April the 14th you kill that lamb. That's the Passover. Then on the 14th day of the month, until the 21st day of the month, you're going to eat unleavened bread. This is 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your house, for whosoever eateth shall be leavened, even the show shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether it be a stranger or born in land. You shall eat nothing leavened, and your habitation shall eat unleavened bread. So you go back to Numbers 28:16 through 17, and also in 2 Chronicles and Ezra. It says, on the 14th day of the first month is the Passover, and on the 15th day of the month is the feast, and for 7 days shall eat unleavened bread. So the 14th day is the Passover, the next day, the 15th, is the day of unleavened bread. You know, Easter falls on the first Sunday after the full moon, and it's a mathematical calculation that falls on or after the 21st. The day of Passover, full moon, is determined the day of Easter. It's based on mathematical approximation following a 19-year metonic cycle. So basically in 2020, that was April the 12th, 2021 was April the 4th, and 2022 is going to be April the 17th. Easter always changes. It's always different. And it talks about basically from the full moon. Where Passover is always the 14th of April. So there's some things to ponder about Easter. The Passover is at night on the 14th day of April. 7 days of unleavened bread always follow the Passover. The pagan festival of Ishtar, which is Easter, is always held late in April to celebrate the earth's regenerating itself after winter. You know, rabbits, eggs, symbol of fertility is used. You know, Easter was the original of the celebration of Ishtar, the Assyrian and Babylonian goddess of fertility and sex, and her symbols, like the eggs and the bunny, were and still are fertility and sex symbols. You know, and people always think that somehow eggs and bunnies have to do with the resurrection, which is crazy. So Ishtar is a Babylonian goddess of love, fertility, and war. And I had to blot out some stuff because, you know, they show everything on these websites. So basically, these are different pictures of Ishtar. And if you ask, is Easter a pagan festival? And this is actually, it turns out Easter began as a pagan festival, celebrating spring in the northern hemisphere, long before the advent of Christianity. The first couple of centuries after Jesus' life, feast days of the new church were attached to the old pagan festivals. So, you know, they were doing the thing of Ishtar before Jesus even died, but the Catholics went ahead and they added it to this pagan festival. And what's the meaning of the name Ishtar? So the mother goddess of Ishtar, which is also of other names, was worshipped by the Assyrians and Babylonians as the goddess of love, war, justice, and fertility. And while the original meaning is unknown, the name goes from basically meaning the morning star. Is Ishtar Egyptian? It says Ishtar's early name was Inanna, and she was worshipped for the first time in the Sumner lands, which is the south of Iraq. And she's the goddess of love, beauty, marriage, desire, fertility, love, justice, political powers. Also, the 7 days that come after the Passover are never called the Passover. They're always called the days of unleavened bread. Peter was arrested during the days of unleavened bread after Passover. And Herod simply wanted to kill him during his own pagan festival of Ishtar or Easter, which is coming up in a couple days. And the King James Bible is the only one that got it right. So again, now about that time, Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church. He killed James, the brother of John, with a sword, and because of Saul it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter, and then were the days of unleavened bread. So Passover was already passed. And then when he apprehended him, he put him in prison, delivered him to 4 quadrillages of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Peter therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing to the church until God for him. And when Herod would have brought him forth the same night, Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with 2 chains, and the keepers before the door kept the prison. And behold, the angel of the Lord came upon him, and a light shined in the prison, and he smote Peter on the side, and raised him up, saying, Arise quickly. And the chains fell off his hands. And the angel said unto him, Gird thyself, and bind on thy sandals. And so he did. And then he said unto him, Cast thy garments about thee, and follow me. And when he went out, he followed him, and it was true which was done by the angels, but thought he saw a vision. And when they were past the first and second ward, he came unto the iron gate that leadeth into the city, which opened from its own accord. And they went out and passed through the streets, and forthwith the angel departed from him. So angel's in bed sleeping, he's got 2 soldiers on either side of him, and then this angel shows up, and this angel basically frees him from prison. And when Peter came to himself, he said, Now that I know of certainty that the Lord has sent his angel, and has delivered me out of the hands of Herod, and from all the expectation of the people, the Jews. So basically Peter's going, wow, I didn't expect this, and now I know for sure God did this for me. In Luke 15 we talked about the prodigal son. It says the son, when he had spent everything he had, and then he came to himself, he says, he thought to himself, I will arise and go to my father. And then he arose, and he came to his father. Deuteronomy 4 says, Know therefore this day, and consider it in thine heart, that the Lord, he is God in heaven above all, the earth beneath, and he is none else. Deuteronomy 4:40, Thou shalt keep therefore his statutes and his commandments, which I command thee this day, that it may go well with thee, and with thy children after thee, and thou may prolong thy days upon the earth, which the Lord thy God has given thee forever. 1 Samuel 12:24 says, Only fear the Lord, and serve him in truth with all your heart, for consider how great things he has done for you. If you shall do wickedly, you shall be consumed, both ye and your king. And then when you become a Christian, at least for me, I've looked at all the things in my life, in my past, that God had his hands on, and I thought to myself, wow, I didn't see this until now. The Bible talks about all over the place, consider. You have to actually sit and think about what God has done for you. That's all over the Bible. Consider. You've got to really deeply think about how amazing God is. Hosea 7:2 says, And they consider not in their hearts that I remember all their wickedness. None of their own doings I beseech them about them, that they before my face. They make the king glad with their wickedness, and the prince with their lies. They are all adulterers. You have to actually consider what you've done. And again, the Bible talks about in Hagar, consider. Matthew, Luke, consider. The Bible's always wanting you to look at what happened and realize what God has done for you. And then he goes on and says, meditate. Sit and think about deeply how amazing God is. Again, meditate. Sit and think about just deep thought about God. Psalms 46:10 says, Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted on the earth. Stop and think and realize how amazing God is. Acts 12:12. And when he had considered the thing, he came to the house of Mary, the mother of John, whose surname was Mark, where many were gathered together praying. And Peter knocked at the door of the gate, and a damsel came to hearken, named Rhona. And when she knew Peter's voice, she opened not the gate for gladness, but ran in it, and told Peter stood before the gate. And when they said unto her, Thou art mad, but she constantly affirmed that it was not was even so. And they said, Is this his angel? But Peter continued knocking, and when they opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. So these people are like, Peter's in prison. This isn't Peter. Obviously he's in prison. Maybe they killed him and this is his angel. But he beckoned unto them with the hand to hold their peace, declared to them how the Lord had brought him out of the prison. And he said, Go show these things to James and the brethren. And he departed and went to their place. And as soon as it was that day, as soon as it was day, there was no small stir among the soldiers, what would become of Peter. And when Herod had sought for him and found him not, he examined the keepers, and commanded that they should be put to death. And he went down from Judea to Caesarea, and there abode. So Herod went to the prisoners and said, What happened to Peter? And they said, I don't know, he just disappeared. And so he put the guards to death. And then Herod was highly displeased with them of Tyre and Sodom. But they came with one accord to him, and having made Blasius the king's chamberlain and their friend, desired peace, because their country was nourished by the king's country. And if you look at the map here, there's two red areas, Sidon and Tyre. That way you can see where it's at. You know, I'm one of those nerdy guys. I like to see things. So there's Sidon and Tyre. And upon a set day, Herod arrayed in a royal apparel, sat upon his throne, and made an ordination to them. And the people gave a shout, saying, Is this the voice of a God and not of a man? And immediately the angel of the Lord smote him, because he gave not God the glory. And he was eaten of worms and gave up the ghost. But the word of God grew and multiplied. And Barabbas the Saul journeyed from Jerusalem, when they had fulfilled their ministry, and took with him John, whose surname was Mark. So this king was basically just talking bad. And instead of saying that God freed Peter, he just basically made up some kind of story. So the angel of the Lord struck him down. Appreciate you guys watching the video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you can comment below. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and tell your friends about it. And I'll see you guys next time. I'm going to put a couple links in here. You can click on another video if you want. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.